Great. Welcome to the second part of this session right here on the book of Daniel. I hope it was not too complicated, and I sure hope that you have this this chart in front of you, sent by Olga. So just print that for you. It's important. It doesn't matter if you print in color or black and white and so on. So we have seen the 4 decrees here. That's what we saw. The 4 points, the decree of Cyrus, that's the one that we go with. The decree of Darius Astaspes, just a reconfirmation of number 1. The decree of Artaxerxes found go ahead with the temple service. And the decree of Artaxerxes, basically used by Sir Robert Anderson here. But basically he has to finish until the Messiah come. He needs to go with the triumphal entry, and he needs the calculation of year in AD 33, which is not quite accurate. So basically returning to our map here, so the first 69 sevens, they start with the issuing of a decree. They include first part and second part, which I will teach right now. And then it goes until his birth, until he does appear. And that's the most logical and literal way of taking the calculation and so forth. By the way, if you would like to study more, difficult book, I have them in my possession here. I would like to suggest you 2 good books if you prefer, if you would like to explore that trail. The number 1, it's Anstey, T-E-Y, and the title of the book is Biblical Chronology. Biblical Chronology by Anstey. And the second one is the 70 Weeks of Daniel. The 70 weeks, he calls it weeks, the 70 weeks of Daniel by David L. Cooper. So that's the 2 good books that I can suggest for you to study to gain more knowledge on the issue of the 77s. Very tedious reading, specifically Anstey. If you want to sleep well, it's a good book to have. I have it in my shelf here to study Genesis and so on, the difference in times and so on and so forth. Okay, so the main point, whether you go with number 1 decree or number 4 decree, the main issue remains the same here. Okay, the Messiah had both to come and die before 70 AD. It doesn't matter if you go with 1, the decree of Cyrus, or the decree of Artaxerxes here, the main point remains the same. The Messiah had to both come and to also die before 70 AD, and we know that much he did. So this will come out clearly as we move along right now, slowing down the pace, trusting the Holy Spirit to understand all these things. So let's move on, okay? That issue is not debatable. Either you go with number 4 or number 1. The Messiah had to die and had to come before 70 AD. Point number 4 on your outline right now, the first 69 sevens, 925b. Come with me. Let's read 25 in totality, but I want the second part of the verse. So you are to know and discern that from the issuing of a decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, that's what I want, there will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. It will be built again with plaza and moat, even in times of distress. So this is the first 69 sevens here. This is the first 69 7. The bigger green part that you have on the TV screen here, because you have the 7 sevens, which give you 49 years. Okay, 7 times 7, it's 49 years. It refers to the period of time during which Jerusalem would be rebuilt. So that part here, part 1, 7 sevens, 49 years. Nothing difficult so far. It refers to the period of time during which Jerusalem will be rebuilt. It took 49 years before the city was viewed as finally having been completed in its rebuilding process. When it says here, in a time of distress, in the times of distress, is if you read Ezra, you will see the difficulties that they had to rebuild the city, with one hand with a weapon and the other hand walking on building the city. So that's the first part that I would like you to concentrate right here. The first part, because 1, 2, 3 parts for the sevens. So the first part of the 70 sevens of Daniel is the 7 sevens for 49 years. So far, so good, not difficult. Now we take B on your outline, the 62 sevens. We call it the second subdivision. It's right here. First subdivision, second subdivision. That's what we are concerned about. Where's the third one? Right here. Our focus is right here, right now, for the next 10-15 minutes here. The second subdivision of the 77s gives you a total of 434 years. If you take your calculator, you do 62 times 7s, it gives you 434 years right here. 62 sevens right there. 62 times 7 gives you 434 years. And when you look at this and you read the text here, the 7 and 62 sevens, it will be built again with plaza and moat even in times of distress. I was in chapter 9 verse 25b here. There is no indication in the verse that there is any gap of time between the first subdivision and the second subdivision. So when you read verse 25b, there is no indication in the text of the Bible that there is a gap of time between the two. They are subsequent, one after another, and now you can see that there is a lengthy gap before the second and the third part, but I am not there yet. So, I repeat, there is no indication in the text of the scriptures, specifically verse 25b, alluding to any gap of time between the first subdivision of the 77s and the second subdivision of the 77s. So the 62 sevens continue right after the first set. The 62 sevens come right after the 7 sevens without any gap here. So the total gives you 69 sevens, or a total of 483 years. You have it here. 69 sevens for a total of 483 years. That's what it gives you. And the first two divisions finish with the word until Messiah, until Messiah the Prince. Okay? Until Messiah the Prince, there will be 70 weeks and 62 weeks, and it finishes until Messiah the Prince. Once again, as it reads, it says nothing about the triumphal entry again. It only points to his appearance, and the most literal way to approach the thing is to ascribe it to his birth. So, let's make it easy. So, from the issuing of the decree to rebuild Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, so from the issuing of a decree to rebuild Jerusalem, follow me, until the appearance of the Messiah, there will be two sets of 7, totaling basically 69 sevens, 483 years. That's simple. From the issuing of a decree until he appears at his birth, there will be 483 years. So that's the total of it. And it requires the first coming to have come before 70 AD. I repeat that, regardless of what decree you play with here. So while there was no indication, listen to that closely, I repeat that 3 times. While there was no indication of any gap of time between the first subdivision and the second subdivision, there will be a gap between the second and the third. There will be a gap between the second and the third. And it answers to the question at the beginning of the 77s, when I said 490 years I've been cut out. When you read that, seems until the Antichrist and so on, seems impossible. But now we magnify everything, and now it starts to make sense. First subdivision, second subdivision, no gap. But a lengthy gap between the second part, at the end of the second part, when he will be born and so on, and the part with the last 7, which I don't need to tell you. This is the 177 years, which will be the Great Tribulation here. Number 5, the events between the 69th 7 and the 70th 7. Okay? The events between the 69th 7, 69 7 finishes there, 69 7th, and between the 70th 7. I give you the events in between. I don't know if I will be able to give them all to you, and you will see it makes a lot of sense. So, the events between the 69th 7, chapter 9, verse 26. We will read that in a moment. So when you come to verse 26, let's read. Then after the 62 weeks, circle then after the 62 weeks. 62 weeks. After the 62 weeks, the Messiah will be cut off and have nothing. And the people of the prince who is to come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. And its end will come with a flood. Even to the end there will be war. Desolations are determined. We stop right there. Okay? We look at the events in between. After the 62 sevens, that is after the second subdivision. So after its conclusion of the second division, and then the 70th 7, certain things will happen here. And we have the word after, clearly showing that there is a gap of time between the 69th 7 and the 70th 7. And the gap of time will happen, between that gap of time, 3 things will happen in verse 26. 3 things will happen. We get into the first one right now. Then after the 62 weeks in verse 26, the Messiah will be cut off. Make a slash forward. That's the first thing that we discussed that did occur between the 2 subdivisions here. The Messiah will be cut off means to be executed. It means to be executed, crucified if you want to. And this happened about 35 years after his birth. 32, 33, 35 years. And it would be AD 30. We know that from the Talmud. It says it was about 30 in the Gospel. So the first thing that happened between the second and the third, it's the Messiah will be cut off and have nothing. Okay, I carry on with number 1, what's included in number 1, and have nothing. When it says, and the Messiah will be cut off and have nothing can be taken in 2 ways. Okay, both are legitimate from the Hebrew text. 2 ways. A, if you want to, nothing miss, meaning no messianic kingdom. So when he died, the messianic kingdom was not established. And this is the plain truth, since we don't have the messianic kingdom now. So when he dies, he has nothing, such has no kingdom. So it's a valid way to take it for nothing here. Okay? And the nothing can also mean B, nothing for himself, meaning he was cut off on behalf of others. Or nothing can be sin. He was cut off, dying on behalf of others. Both statements are true. Okay? At the time that he died, the Messianic kingdom was not established, and indeed he died a substitutionary death. He died for you and I. He had nothing wrong on his own. So it is one thing that happened between the 69th 7 and the 70th 7. The Messiah will be cut off and have nothing. The second one is lengthy. Come with me. Then after the 62 weeks, the Messiah will be cut off and have nothing. We dealt with this. And now we look, and the people of the prince who is to come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. Make a slash forward. And the people of the prince who is to come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. We stop right there. That's the second thing that will happen during that long period of time. So you can see here, basically at the cross, the Messiah will be cut off and have nothing. All right? Now we're talking about the people of the prince that is to come. That's the destruction of Jerusalem right here. The chart is exceedingly well done, by the way. My wife and I did it together without pride. Took us a while. So that's the Messiah with it being cut off and have nothing. Messianic kingdom not established. And he died as a substitutionary death, being sinless himself or completely unleavened. And then we deal with the people of the prince will destroy the city. It's Jerusalem. That's what we take right now. Okay? The people, it's a specific people. Okay? And the specific people here that we have are the subject of the action that we see, and the action is destruction of the temple. Notice something very important. It does not say that the prince shall come that will destroy the city of the temple here. Okay? It says, the people of the prince who is to come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. It does not say that this is the prince that will do it, but it is the people of the prince that will do it. And the point is, the nationality of the people and the nationality of the prince who is to come are one and the same. The nationality of the people that is to come and the nationality of the prince that is to come also is one and the same. The prince and the people are from the same nationality, same peoplehood. Okay? Now the prince here was alluded to by Daniel in the past. By Daniel 2 chapters earlier in chapter 7 and in chapter 8. And this is a reference to the Antichrist. So it's the people now of the prince that will come, but it's not the prince that is come. The prince will come later. But they have the same nationality, Roman origin, and we know that Daniel received revelation already in chapter 7 and 8 concerning the Antichrist. So the prince that shall come is the Antichrist, but he is not the one that will destroy the city in the temple in AD 70, but the people of that prince will do it. What's the point? Same nationality. The second thing that happens then is that after Christ is cut off in AD 30, as the result of the unforgivable sin, as you know, those who did the life of the Messiah with me, so the nature of the sin is the destruction of the temple and the city. And the second event in the gap of time is the event of AD 70, Jerusalem and being destroyed and Messiah being cut off. So if I separate my board here, this is the second segment or basically part of the 77s. And between the second and third, three things will happen. We have explored one, the Messiah will be cut off and have nothing. And then here, 70 AD, here, the destruction of Jerusalem by the prince, by the people of the prince that is to come here. Okay? So first things is the Messiah cut off, I repeat. The second thing is AD 70, which happened 40 years later after the death of the Messiah. So since it has already been fulfilled, the AD 70, we know the people that destroyed the city. We know who they are. They are the Romans. And because the prince to come or the Antichrist is of the same nationality, that tells us automatically that the Antichrist will be of Roman origin. Okay? There is no warrant in the scriptures for the Antichrist to be a Jew here. It's not biblical teaching at all. Basically, the Antichrist will be of Roman origin based upon all the explanation that I gave you. Since it's past history, 70 AD is behind us. We know the people. It was destroyed under Vespasian and under Titus. I will come back in a moment. The Antichrist is Roman origin. It's logical because the Antichrist is the last ruler of the times of the Gentiles, so he cannot be a Jew. He has to be a Gentile. I repeat, based upon chapter 2 and 7 together, go back to your note, when you basically mix together and complete the study of chapters 2 and 7 together, this is the times of the Gentiles, and you guys know, because of the studies that you have done, that the last ruler of the times of the Gentiles is the Antichrist, so he cannot be a Jew. Okay? Let me say one more thing about the second thing that happened, and we'll stop there for today. It's in with the flood here. And the people of the city that destroyed the sanctuary, verse 26, and its end will come with the flood, circle flood, even to the end there will be war and desolation determined. Okay? Flood, there will be no flood. There was no flood in Jerusalem in AD 70. Jerusalem sits 2,500 feet above sea level, so it's very hard to flood that place. Whenever the word flood is used symbolically, it's always a symbol of a military invasion, and that's exactly what happened here when Vespasian came first, the military commander Vespasian, and then Titus came and they destroyed the city, and that's exactly what happened here. The city was destroyed by means of military invasion. That's the symbolism of the flood and so on. We have time to take the third thing that happened in the gap here based on your verse 26. I read verse 26 again. Come with me. One more shot. 2 lengthy sessions today. Then after the 62 weeks, the Messiah will be cut off and have nothing. We dealt with this. Look at the chart. Look at your cross in red. And the people of the prince who is to come will destroy the city and the sanctuary, and its hand will come with the flood. You can make your slash forward if you want after flood. Even to the end there will be war, and desolations are determined. That's the third thing that I want to explain right now. There will be war, desolations are determined here. Even to the end there will be wars and desolation. This is the third thing. So we have looked at number 1, Messiah cut off, okay, and AD 70, and now we deal with all that period of time of the church age until the rapture and so on. So even until the end there will be wars and desolation. Meaning, for the remainder of the interval between the 69th 7 and the 70th 7, the land will be characterized by war. So right here, when it ends here, and he did his ministry, and he died here, the land indeed has been characterized by war until he comes back and so on. Okay? So the land will be characterized by war. That's exactly what happened in Israel in the last decades and centuries. Okay? Which actually sets the stage for the third subdivision, the last 7 here. And it concludes in verse 26c, the desolations are determined. It describes the state of the land of Israel as a result of its many wars. The word determined means decreed by God. So there will be no peace in Israel until the second coming of the Messiah comes. And this is indeed throughout history a land, and the surrounding land, Syria and so on, a land characterized by war. So it's a long period of desolation are decreed by God for the remaining part of the gap, and we are right in it right now towards the end of it until the 70th sevens come into, which is the Great Tribulation, and so on. So there is a clear gap between the second segment and the third segment when three things did occur. This is the three things that I just explained to you. Messiah died and cut off, no kingdom, no sin of his own, the destruction of the city by the Romans, and then that the land of Israel is characterized by wars. I don't see lots of complexity in it, actually. I think when it's well explained and kept literal in the text, it does make sense. Beloved, thank you for your patience with me, with the mistake I did. I sure hope my lapel mic is on right now. These 2 sessions will be posted tonight. God bless you. Thank you for your support. You see, I don't speak about it very much anymore. It is what it is. Sometimes distance among each other causes us to forget. But I still have faith, and I will continue to do that ministry based on faith. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Amen.